She sent the divorce by email, but forgot what I bring home from war.
I was sitting at the kitchen table when I got the call. Jason, one of those old friends who doesn't say much but always speaks straight, left me a voicemail. His tone told me everything before the words even landed. "Hey, John, I wasn't sure if you knew, but I saw Melissa last night, at that wine bar on 5th. She wasn't alone. Rick Carlson was there with her. Looked cozy. Rick Carlson. Her coworker. The guy she always said was just good at closing deals. I'd shaken that man's hand at company Christmas parties, stood next to him at neighborhood barbecues while we watched the steak sizzle. All the while, I guess, he was plotting to steal the life I built. I didn't listen to the whole message. Didn't have to. I sat there in that chair, staring at nothing, listening to the wind batter the windows. The house felt too quiet, too big, like the walls were pressing in. My coffee had gone cold hours before, but I didn't move. Because what do you do when everything you've poured yourself into for 2 decades turns out to be a lie? Melissa hadn't come home the night before. Said she was working late, another showing, another client dinner. I swallowed that excuse like all the others. Nodded, smiled, trusted. Like a fool. But knowing isn't the same as facing it. That part came later. When I asked Brady and Lily if they knew, that's when it really hit. I kept my tone even, tried not to sound desperate when I asked them if they'd noticed anything between their mother and Rick. Brady wouldn't meet my eye. Mom said you'd overreact. Overreact? My marriage was burning down, and I was the one lighting matches, apparently. Lily, bless her, couldn't even look at me. We just want Mom to be happy. That right there, that's what cracked something inside me. Not just Melissa's betrayal. My kids too. They'd chosen their side without hesitation. And it wasn't mine. There should have been yelling. Maybe begging. Something to show I still cared. But I didn't. Instead, something settled in me. Solid. Cold. Like the click of a lock turning. I'm not the kind of man who flies off the handle. I don't scream. I don't throw things. Never saw the point. My work, risk management, taught me patience. How to wait for the right moment, to read the lay of the land. You don't survive 20 years of that world without learning the value of strategy. Melissa thought she'd ended the game. She didn't know I was just getting started. 2 years. That's what I gave myself. 2 years to let her build her happy ending with Rick. Let the kids grow up, finish school, settle into whatever fantasy life they thought they'd earned. 2 years to pull every string, set every trap, plan every detail. I don't want to ruin her. I want to dismantle her life piece by piece until there's nothing left but the wreckage of her own choices. Rick Carlson, he's the first domino. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Derek's number. Old contact from a consulting gig years back. Man knew how to dig into people's lives, find the dirt they buried deep. Tax records, property deals, secret accounts, side pieces, if it existed, Derek could find it. I didn't even need to explain. Just gave him the name. Rick Carlson. Keller and Wade Realty. There was a pause on the other end, then Derek gave a low chuckle. You finally calling in that favor? Yeah, I said. I need everything. No rush. I've got time. Because that's the thing about revenge. The best kind isn't loud. It's patient. Surgical. I'll let them think they've won. Let them climb higher, build their new family. I'll even smile at the wedding photos if I have to. And when they're comfortable, when the kids are old enough to fend for themselves and Melissa has that shiny new life she always wanted, baby, house, happy ending, I'll pull the floor out from under them. Piece by piece. Let her see how it feels to lose everything. Because I've learned something in all this. Some men break. Me. I wait. 2 years sounds like a long time. But it's amazing how quickly that clock starts ticking when your focus sharpens, when every day becomes part of something bigger. I wasn't rushing this. I wasn't looking for quick wins or satisfying blows. I was building a house of cards, knowing exactly which one to flick when the time came. Derek got back to me within a week. "Rick Carlson," he said, his voice calm, clinical. "Publicly clean. But there's always a but, isn't there?" I leaned back in my chair. There always is. He's got a shell company registered under his cousin's name. RWC Holdings. Looks like it's used to funnel payments from side deals. Properties bought under market value, flipped for quick profits without going through Keller and Wade's books. I let that sink in. Illegal? Technically. Gray area. But shady as hell. Especially if he's hiding income from the IRS. What else? Derek hesitated. You sure you want to know? Tell me. He's got a kid. 6 years old. Not Melissa's. I felt something twist in my gut. She knows. No clue. The mother's a bartender in Tacoma. Gets monthly payments under the table. I rubbed my jaw. A kid. Melissa always said she didn't want more after Brady and Lily. And here Rick had one stashed away. Another secret. Another thread to pull. I hung up with Derek and sat for a while in the dark of my home office. The house was too big now. Echoes in the halls, spaces filled with memories that didn't feel like mine anymore. But I wasn't done. Next, I did something I never thought I would. I started watching my own kids. I wasn't proud of it, but this wasn't about pride. This was about knowing where everyone stood before I made my move. Brady, for all his posturing, was easy to read. Social media was a goldmine. Parties, new girlfriend every semester, pictures with Melissa and Rick at their new house. Smiling. Happy. Lily was quieter. Still under my roof. Still polite. But there was a distance. She'd visit Melissa's new home on weekends, post pictures holding Rick's dog. I even caught a glimpse of a framed photo on her dresser once, Melissa, Rick, Brady, Lily. Like I never existed. But I kept playing the good father. I paid for Brady's tuition, showed up to Lily's senior dance recital. Smiled. Clapped. Pretended. All while setting the stage. I needed to know they wouldn't see me coming. 2 years, I reminded myself. 2 years to make sure they trusted the floor beneath their feet before I ripped it out. The real work began that winter. Melissa announced she was pregnant. It came through the grapevine, a shared post from Brady's feed. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the image of Melissa cradling a baby bump, Rick's arms around her. Miracles happen, the caption read. I almost laughed. Of course. The final piece. The new family unit. All smiles and Sunday brunches. A fresh start. It was perfect. Because now, the stakes were higher. They had something to lose. Everything to lose. Derek's research had given me the lever for Rick. But Melissa? I needed something more personal. Something that would unravel her from the inside. I started with the nanny. They hired one 6 months later, a young woman named Casey. Fresh out of college, working toward her teaching degree. The kind of girl Melissa always pretended to care about, bright, earnest, trusting. I found her through a job posting Melissa's friend shared. Made a donation to her GoFundMe for tuition. Reached out, Offered guidance on the family she was working for. Played it careful, like I just wanted to make sure she wasn't stepping into something dangerous. Because Rick's side deals weren't exactly secrets in the right circles. It didn't take much. A few well-placed hints about Rick's other life, a little cash to help ease her student loans, and Casey was on my side. Watching. Listening. And it was Casey who gave me the next piece of the puzzle. They argue about money, she whispered during one of our calls. A lot. Rick's got investments Melissa doesn't know about. Offshore accounts. I smiled. That's good. Keep listening. But I wasn't just building a case against Melissa and Rick. No, this had to go deeper. My kids had chosen their side. They needed to feel it too. That's where Callum and Emma came in. I found them through Derek. Two bright, charming young professionals, each with just enough baggage to make them believable. I paid them well, more than well, to befriend my children. Slowly. Naturally. Callum met Brady at a gym near campus. Emma connected with Lily through a volunteer program at the animal shelter. Friendship first. Then more. They played their roles perfectly. Callum as the wise older friend, nudging Brady toward riskier decisions, investments that Rick's shady company could facilitate. Emma as the confidant, feeding Lily doubts about Rick's honesty, Melissa's choices. None of it forced. None of it obvious. I was patient. Because that's the thing about revenge. It's not just about destroying lives. It's about letting them build those lives first. And when the time was right, I'd burn it all down. Time has a funny way of playing tricks on you when you're waiting for something to fall apart. The second year stretched long. Longer than I thought it would. But that was fine. I knew the patience it took to play the long game. And the closer we crept to the finish line, the more certain I became that the payoff would be worth it. Melissa's baby, a boy, was born in the spring. They named him Samuel. Sammy, in all the captions. Little snapshots of him bundled up in pastel blues, Rick grinning like the world couldn't touch him. Melissa looked softer, worn in that way new mothers always do but with a shine in her eyes. Like she'd finally gotten everything she wanted. I watched from a distance. Quiet. Calculated. Casey kept feeding me morsels. Melissa's stress about money. Rick's late-night calls that made her frown. The arguments that followed in hushed tones. Casey played her role perfectly, loyal, unassuming, but always listening. Then the real cracks began. Brady, always chasing bigger wins, had fallen right into Callum's web. It started small. Crypto investments. Sports betting. Rick even played along at first, giving Brady tips, introductions to friends who could help him diversify. I knew the playbook, get the kid hooked on quick money, fast returns. That's the thing with guys like Rick. They always believe they're the smartest person in the room. And Brady, for all his swagger, wasn't built to play in the big leagues. By the time Callum steered Brady toward one of Rick's side businesses, an under-the-table investment opportunity, Brady was knee-deep in borrowed money. Case closed. Lily took longer. Emma was patient, weaving herself into Lily's life like ivy creeping up a wall. They started spending weekends together, volunteering, grabbing coffee, studying. Emma wasn't pushy. She just listened, nodded, and asked the right questions. How do you really feel about Rick? What was it like watching your mom move on? Those questions seeded doubt. Slow growing, invisible at first. But I knew the weight they carried. It wasn't about turning my kids against their mother. Not yet. It was about isolating them. Making sure that when the foundation crumbled, they'd have no solid ground left beneath them. I checked the calendar. Less than 4 months left. Both Brady and Lily would be legal adults. No more custody ties, no more obligations.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience. But we really need your support, namely a subscription to the channel, which can make it possible to hire a professional voice actor and make the best content for you.
Melissa wouldn't see that shift as anything big, why would she? They'd chosen her, hadn't they? But for me, it meant freedom. The final phase could begin. I met with Derek again. Over bourbon, late one evening. "I've got something," he said, sliding a manila folder across the table. I opened it slowly. Inside were printouts, financial ledgers, offshore account statements, all in Rick Carlson's name. "Cayman Islands," Derek said, tapping a page. "About $850,000 tucked away. None of it reported." My jaw clenched. "Melissa, no. No. She's got her name on none of it. It's all Rick, all under the table." I leaned back, thinking it through. Rick wasn't just hiding money from the government. He was hiding it from Melissa too. "Timing's everything," Derek added. "You could drop this now. Burn him down before it gets any bigger." But I shook my head. Not yet. The higher they climbed, the farther they'd fall. I want him to feel untouchable first. The next piece slid into place almost by accident. Casey called me one night, voice hushed. "I don't know if this matters," she said, "but Rick's been getting phone calls from someone named Jordan." "Who's Jordan?" "I know. But Melissa found a credit card statement last week with charges at a hotel in Tacoma." I smiled. Of course. Rick couldn't keep his hands to himself. I tracked Jordan down through Derek. She worked at a high-end bar in Tacoma, the same one Rick's kid's mother worked at. Another overlap. I made Jordan an offer. She laughed at first. Called me crazy. "I don't care what Rick's doing," she said. "We're just having fun." But money talks. Everyone's got a price. A little cash, a little reassurance that she wouldn't be involved in anything messy, and suddenly she was sending me screenshots. Messages. Pictures. Proof. Rick had a pattern. His own private web of lies, separate from Melissa. That's what I needed. With less than 2 months to go, I started tightening the noose. Callum encouraged Brady to diversify more aggressively, feeding him riskier plays. Rick vouched for them, even helped co-sign a small private loan for one of Brady's bets. Emma planted the seeds in Lily's head that Rick wasn't who he said he was. A gentle nudge. A shared photo of Rick outside a hotel with a woman who wasn't Melissa, Jordan. Emma played it just right. "Do you think your mom knows?" Doubt. Fractures. Melissa, meanwhile, was exhausted. Casey told me she was stretched thin, baby crying all night, Rick out late more often, snapping at her over small things. Their picture-perfect family wasn't holding together so well under pressure. I waited. Listened. Watched. Because that's how you win a war. You don't charge in guns blazing. You let your enemies build their empire. And when the time is right, you make them watch it crumble. Melissa always did love the illusion of control. Her life was a tidy Instagram grid, baby milestones, cozy date nights, perfect family outings. A curated display of stability. But I knew better. I'd seen the underbelly. Heard the fights through Casey's late-night whispers. Watched Rick's secrets pile up like dry tinder. All I had to do was light the match. It started with Rick. One morning, as the frost still clung to windshields, a little brown envelope landed on Melissa's doorstep. Inside, a single printed photo, Rick, outside the Tacoma hotel, Jordan on his arm. Casual. Familiar. The timestamp in the corner told the story. No note. No sender. I knew Melissa. Knew how her mind would spiral without an explanation. She'd sit with that picture for hours, maybe days, before confronting Rick. She'd wonder if it was real, if it was new, if it was happening again. The uncertainty would rot her from the inside out. I gave it 3 days. Then Casey reported the fallout. He swore it was old, she said, barely suppressing a laugh. Told her she's paranoid. But they've been yelling all day. Doors slamming. Baby crying. Perfect. While Melissa scrambled to hold their happy family narrative together, I sent Brady spiraling. Callum helped him make one last big play, a private deal that seemed like a sure thing. Rick vouched for it. I made sure the loan paperwork had Rick's signature, co-signer, right next to Brady's. And then the deal collapsed. Money gone. Brady panicked. Ran straight to Rick. Melissa overheard the whole thing. You told me this was a safe investment. Brady's voice cracked as he shouted, loud enough for Casey's microphone to pick up every word. Rick tried to smooth it over, offering to cover it, just to keep Brady quiet. But Melissa's voice cut through that attempt like a blade. What investment? It unraveled fast. Brady, stupid and desperate, confessed everything. Rick's involvement. The money gone. The lie exposed. Melissa's tidy grid started fracturing right there. But I wasn't done. Derek helped me pull one final thread, a quiet tip-off to the IRS. Rick's offshore accounts, flagged for suspicious activity. Enough to spark an inquiry. Enough to freeze funds. I didn't need Rick arrested. Not yet. I needed him scrambling. 2 weeks later, Rick's assets went on hold. Suddenly that $850,000 cushion he thought he had was out of reach. His tone shifted. Snappier. More erratic. Casey reported Melissa's bruised nerves, the fights that stretched late into the night. I thought we were stable, Melissa said, more to herself than to Rick. I thought we were safe. But Rick was never safe. Not from himself. I dropped the final bomb on Melissa. The second envelope landed in her mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon. Inside was a list of Rick's holdings, offshore accounts, shell companies, unreported assets. A neat little ledger of all the lies Rick had built their life on. At the bottom, a single line, typed in bold. Ask him about Jordan's kid. That one gutted her. Casey called me that night, voice shaky. She's broken. Screaming, crying. Threatened to take Samuel and leave. Said she won't be another one of his mistakes. Rick's perfect empire crumbling. But I wasn't done with Melissa. Because for all the focus on Rick's sins, Melissa had her own. She'd built this life on my back. Used my stability, my sacrifices, my name to get where she was. And she'd chosen to burn it all for Rick. She left me hollow so she could fill herself up with something shiny and new. She deserved to lose everything, too. I made sure her name surfaced in Rick's financial mess. Enough to raise questions. Enough to tangle her up in the same legal web. IRS agents showed up at the house that weekend. Melissa answered the door holding Samuel, still in his footy pajamas. 2 agents with badges. Calm, polite, but firm. Routine inquiry, they said. Just following the money. But I knew. I knew Melissa's skin crawled at the thought of Samuel being near anything criminal. Her picture-perfect life shattering in real time. The photo albums. The baby's room. The dreams. All tainted. And when Brady called me that night, voice small for the first time in years, asking if I knew anything about the money Rick lost him. I just listened. Let him sit in the silence. I didn't need to explain. This was just the first blow. Melissa thought the worst was over. She didn't know I was just getting started. There's a moment, after the dust settles, when you stop asking what next. And start asking who am I now? That moment came to me one quiet evening, 6 months after Rick's empire crumbled, after Melissa's picture-perfect life collapsed into a mess of court hearings and foreclosure notices. I stood outside the building that bore my name, Briggs Center for Men's Renewal. A glass storefront, understated signage, warm lights inside where men sat in quiet conversation. Veterans. Divorced fathers. Men gutted by betrayal and trying to find their footing again. Men like I used to be. I'd taken Rick's patent, a self-help model for resilience coaching he never filed properly, and turned it into something real. Not a scam, not another hollow promise. Actual work. Real healing. And it worked. The center thrived. There's a certain poetry in that. The man Melissa left behind had built something better than she ever believed possible. But the victory wasn't just in the clinic's success. It was in what didn't happen. Melissa's house sold for a loss, her assets tied up in legal battles. IRS audits dragged on for over a year, draining what little she had left. The custody fight over Samuel got messy fast. Rick's ex exposed his offshore funds, won full custody. Rick's reputation in real estate. Gone. He tried to move into consulting, but the whispers followed him. He was last spotted working for a property management firm 2 towns over. No prestige. No golden boy deals. Just another man trying to claw back what he'd lost. I never needed to lift a finger after the last domino fell. They burned their own bridges trying to put out the fires I'd lit. The kids? That took longer. Brady called one afternoon, months after Rick's suspension. His voice didn't carry the weight of a son reaching out to a father. It was just a young man broken by his own choices. "Dad," he said, hesitant. I messed up. I let the silence hold for a beat before I answered. "Yeah," I said. "You did. We talked. Really talked. Not about Melissa. Not about Rick. About him. His future. His mistakes. I didn't offer money, but I offered something better, honesty. Figure out who you are, Brady," I told him. "Not who you think you need to be for someone else." Lily came later. Quieter. A handwritten letter in my mailbox one rainy morning. "Dad, I'm sorry. No explanations. No excuses. Just those 3 words." I wrote back. "I know. We've rebuilt something, the 3 of us. Not the old life. That's dead and gone. But something new. Grown out of truth, not obligation. They know who I am now. The man who didn't break." Melissa never reached out again. I hear things through the grapevine. She's renting a small townhouse now, juggling 2 part-time jobs, trying to stay afloat. The shine in her eyes is gone in the photos I've seen. Tired. Weathered. Maybe even regretful. But I don't care anymore. I thought revenge would feel like fire, hot, consuming. But it's not. It's quiet. It's the peace of knowing I didn't just destroy something. I became something. There's a creek that runs behind my cabin. 10 acres of woods, far from the city noise. I built a small dock there, where I sit some evenings, watching the water move slow and steady. Sometimes Brady visits, sometimes Lily too. We sit in the quiet, and it's enough. Revenge didn't save me. But it cleared the ground so I could build something worth standing on. That's all I ever needed. And that's all I'll ever need.
What do you think of the story? Write in the comments.